Hello, everyone, and welcome to Heads Up, the weekly webcast and podcast of the National Headache Foundation. I'm Dr. Lindsay Weitzel, migraine strategist, founder of the Facebook group Migraine Nation, and chronic daily migraine survivor. I am so happy to tell you that I am here this week with Dr. Tim Smith. Dr. Smith is the CEO of Study Metrics Research, and he's also the vice president of the National Headache Foundation. Hello, Dr. Smith, how are you?
Hello again, I'm well.
So we have Dr. Smith on because it is Clinical Trials Week. And so we wanted to do a special episode on clinical trials. And we were going to talk today about clinical trials and how they are currently being affected by COVID. There are so many awesome clinical trials going on for migraine medications right now. It's such an awesome time for those of us with migraine. But yes, they are being affected by COVID, and we're going to talk to Dr. Smith because this is what he does, is he works in migraine clinical trials, and we're going to just discuss really quick how things are being affected and how things are going. So, Dr. Smith, without any delay, how many clinical trials for migraine medications are ongoing right now?
Actually, Lindsay, there are dozens of clinical trials ongoing all across the country, even the world right now.
Mm-hmm.
And, speaking of the coronavirus pandemic problems that we have, when all of this started, we at my center here in the St. Louis area, we had 9 clinical trials that were ongoing and recruiting. And since the pandemic response has kicked in, and it's a problem of the social or physical distancing,
Right,
becomes a problem. So people are not getting out and about. Study participants need to come to a study center for their care and for their study participation. And so a lot of that has been restricted. And the 9 trials we had going when the pandemic response kicked in, only 4 of them are still ongoing at this moment. And
wow.
there is no active recruitment for those going on. So we're trying to keep the patients that are in those studies coming back. We have them on investigational treatments. And so it's not ethical, fair, or good medicine to not bring them back in. So we have to take extra precautionary measures and only, bring them in under certain, protected circumstances and conditions so that we can see them and draw their blood and renew their medication supply, all that kind of stuff. We can try to do some of these encounters over the phone or by video, but for clinical studies, you have to bring them in to do an EKG or to do a lab draw and measure their vital signs, all those kinds of things. So
Right.
a challenge, and we're struggling through and hoping that we can get to the other side. It's just sort of getting through day by day at the moment.
Okay, so what are most of the challenges you're seeing right now has to do with social distancing? Are there other problems? Are there funding problems?
Right. So, well, the main problems right now are come from the social distancing issues. For us at a center that works on a sort of a contracted fee-for-service basis, we take a hit on the funding side of things as well.
Mm-hmm.
We get paid as we go, and if we're not doing work, we don't get paid. So there's that. So far, at my particular center, we've been able to, with the trickle through of the patients that are participating, we've been able to keep things going and sustain things. We haven't had to furlough any co-workers or close, but we have worked skeleton crews. We have people working from home a lot, where it makes sense,
Mm-hmm.
and try to keep people from being exposed and out in the community unless they need to be there. So, but I think there's a risk that if the economy doesn't bounce back, soon, then, that's going to start causing funding problems for all research as we go forward.
Right. How can people help? Is there anything that we can do as a migraine community to help with this problem, because this is going to affect us all. We are all super excited for all these medicines to come out. I believe we counted it in a previous episode. Is it 18 medicines in a 5-year period starting in 2018 that are coming out for all of us? And
Right.
so this is throwing a wrench in that. So
Yeah.
what can we do as a community? Are there things we can do to help?
Yeah, so we are in the middle of that cycle we talked about. So I think we're about halfway through I think there are 9 of those products that have gotten market approval.
Mm-hmm.
9 more to go.
Yeah.
How things work, keeping our fingers crossed. But, we do have, like the GPANT trials for prevention. There's a GPANT nasal spray that is queued up to start acute therapy trials, and that's been delayed.
Okay.
Some combination products we talked about a few weeks ago. We did our emerging products review, and some of the listener and readership and viewership can go back and look at those on the NHF website headaches.org. But
right, and just so that means like a medicine that's more than one drug at the same time.
Yes.
But there's a couple of those being trialed. So yeah, go ahead.
Right. So all of that has been sort of, I don't know if it's been put on hold, but it's kind of being slow rolled, we still have the work going on, but it's advancing at a crawl, and that's, it makes it hard. It's just going to wind up adding to the cost and delaying, the ability to get those products out there to our people who are, desperately anticipating or waiting, the availability of these products to get out there. So
right.
We're hopeful, but we'll make up for lost time once it gets going again. In fact, I do have 7. I think the last time I checked, we've been in negotiations on 7 new projects that we're going to start this year. Some of them should have already started, but they've been pushed off, and now it's going to be compressed to a pretty tight timeline a little bit later this year to get those up and going. But, timing is everything, and there's so many unknowns about this crazy virus that, it's already thrown us a lot of curveballs, and, we are doing the best we can, trying to stay in the batter's box,
right.
get another shot at it. So, but we're making it. I'm hopeful. I'm pretty positive it's going to turn out okay, but a lot of uncertainty for the next, several weeks anyway.
Right. So as they open the country, and we all definitely want these medicines to become available as soon as possible, can we possibly volunteer to become patients in clinical trials, or what all can we do as a community to help this process?
That's I love that question, because, we always need new, study volunteers. What we tell people is, if we didn't have volunteers, we wouldn't have any medications at all. And,
right.
And volunteers, people talk these days about heroes, and, there are a lot of them, supply chain workers and frontline healthcare workers and so on and so forth. But our study volunteers, they're our heroes, because if it weren't for them, we wouldn't even be talking about this. So,
right.
So anybody that's never volunteered, they should look into it, and they can check it out. They can find information. They can go to my website at studymetrics.com. We have some information on there about what it means to be in a clinical trial, and what the process is like. In the St. Louis area, obviously people can volunteer here, but there are clinical trial centers in every major or even, medium-sized town around the country. They have the opportunities for people to volunteer, and I would encourage people to do that. And even if you can't volunteer, or maybe you wouldn't qualify for a study, you can donate to worthy organizations like the National Headache Foundation. Make a gift to the Headache Foundation for research. We sponsor patient-centered research, and they can go to headaches.org and donate on the website.
Well, thank you so much. Is there anything else you'd like to add to our discussion, on clinical trials this week?
Just want to wish everyone a happy Clinical Trials Day and Trials Awareness Week. Think about us, and stay tuned, and we hope to keep on bringing you lots of new information during this very exciting but strange time. And hopefully our colleague researchers in the virology world will be producing some antiviral agents and vaccines that will help us put an end to this crisis and return our lives to what may be a new normal, but get us back to our much wanted places in life, as we say.
Right. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Smith, and thank you everyone for joining us today. And please join us again next week on Heads Up, the weekly webcast and podcast of the National Headache Foundation.